Okay, what we're going to look at today is a credit report. And the credit report basically tells someone or tells a company or tells somebody you want to buy something from, um, do you pay back your money or loans? So this is the question they want to answer. So if I want to get a car, they want to know, will I pay that money back? If I want to buy a house, will I pay the money back? How reliable am I? How trustworthy am I with money? Let's use a quick example. Let's say you borrow $5 from your friend, and then you pay him back. Let's take this, and you pay that person back the money. So the next week he says, hey, can I borrow, you ask to borrow another $5. And your friend says, well, sure, I'll borrow you that $5. In fact, maybe I'll even borrow you $10 because I trust you. I might borrow you a little more. Or lend you, lend you a little more. But let's look at another way. Let's say you borrow that $5 from your friend, but in this case, you don't pay it back. Then next week you come back to your friend and you say, hey, can I borrow $5 again? And your friend will probably tell you, well, no way, you didn't pay my money back, so there is no way I'm going to give you that money until you pay me back, until you show me that I can trust you and I'm reliable. So this is kind of what the credit report does. It gives us that kind of information. There's a bunch of things it tells us on there because we need to know that. So let's look at some of the things on the credit report. Let's start with the basics. Of course, it'll tell us first, who is it? So whose credit report is this? Is Paul Larson. Tells us when he's born. It also tells us a social security number. It tells us how many, if you're married, how many kids you have, because that's kind of important for your finances, but it may not necessarily affect your credit score. Okay. The next thing it wants to know is your address. They want to know this because there could be two Paul Larsons, and this is one way to know which Paul Larson it is. So it tells us what is your address now, what's your current address, and maybe the last address that you had. Now, it might be that you only have one address. That's possible too. Let's move on. The next part it talks about is the employer data. So this is your job. Of course, if I'm going to lend you money, I probably want to lend you money if you have a job because I know you're going to earn money and pay me back. If you don't have a job, I might say, well, when are you going to pay me back the money? So it's good to know. Here we can see that it's going to start with the most recent. So this is the job he has now. Notice it says the date reported was in 2013. So he's had the job for about, if we look back up here, this is being run in 2016. So he's had the job for about 3 years. Or that was reported. It looks like he was hired in 2008. So it's actually 8 years he's been working there. It also says he is currently employed. So he still has this job. The next thing it says is the next employer, which is Simon's Manufacturing. I'm not sure exactly what that is. And we can see here that he had this job. He was hired in 1990, and it looks like he ended in 2008. So I'm guessing he got a new job here in 2008 and changed. But think about that. This guy had a job from 1990 until now. So would I trust to borrow this guy money? Yeah, probably, because he's kept a job for that long. He hasn't changed jobs. He hasn't been unemployed. That's kind of shows me maybe he's a little more reliable. So one thing they look at. The next thing. This one actually tells the credit score, 684, which is, I don't remember the numbers. I think below, like when you start getting below 6, it starts to get pretty bad. Usually around like 800, like 780 to 800 range, something like that is getting higher and better credit scores. That's like some of the best credit scores, as I recall. Next. Now it's going to tell us your accounts. So what kind of accounts do you have? In this case, like bank accounts. So we can see here he has Chase Bank, and it's going to tell us a couple things. Well, if you can pay back money, you probably have some money saved, right? I trust you more because you have money saved. You know how to handle your money. So here, looks like his current balance is $1,100, and he's had this bank account since 2009. This bank account is still open, and it looks like, oh, sorry, excuse me, this is not a bank account. This is a credit card, excuse me. So right now he has a balance of $1,100, which means that he needs to pay $1,100. So that's his most recent bill. His high balance, so the most that he has charged to his credit card is $2,000. So, or 2,500, and it looks like his limit is 3,000. So a couple different kinds of things. It tells us what kind of loan this is. This is a credit card, so it's a line of credit. It tells us it's revolving credit, so it's going, he can buy something and then keep getting that loan, right? This was one of the terms on your credit. So it's a revolving credit. Let's redraw that quick. So you might say, well, why do I care about this? Well, if you have a lot of loans, it might be harder for you to pay back a new loan. So we want to make sure that you don't have too many loans that you're trying to pay back. Now, the next cool thing it shows us is right here. It shows us how much you've paid since 2012. It shows us when has he paid. Well, it looks like in 2012, he paid, uh-oh, he was late. Paid. Keep going. It goes up here. In 2014, he was late again, less than 6 or greater than 60 days, excuse me. And then the rest was okay. So think about this. Would you trust this guy for the past 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years? He's had 2 late payments on his credit card. Would I trust him? Yeah, not too bad. It's not terrible, not perfect, but yeah, he's kept his payments pretty good for the last 2 years. And he doesn't charge a whole bunch of money, so not too bad. Then we go to the next account he has. This one is Mr. Money. It looks like this is a payday loan. So this is maybe when you go to a payday loan, it's basically like a short-term loan. You go to them, you get the loan for a couple weeks, and then when you get paid, you pay it back. It looks like he had a balance of $1,200, and it looks like this was just recently too. It looks like this was in 2016 of October 2016. It is still open, and it looks like he isn't past due, which means he's not late, but he still owes $1,200. So do I want to borrow this guy more money? He already owes $1,200 here, so that's going to factor in what did I borrow him money, or how much I borrow him. And he has here another $1,100. So think about that. If this person has $2,000 they already owe to other people, do I want to borrow them money? Do I trust them? Then the next one we have, we'll get this here, is Wells Fargo Bank. It looks like this is a car loan, an automobile loan, so this is a car. It's closed, which means he paid it off. And it looks like it was, the balance on that was $14,000, and he paid it for 48 months at $325. So this one is paid off. Now, do I trust him a little more? Yeah, probably, because I know I can trust him to pay off $14,000. Could I trust him to pay off $50? Probably. Could I trust him to pay off $150,000? I don't know. The next one he has, let's take a peek at this, is JCPenney. We can see here that it looks like JCPenney is a revolving account, so it's open and it just stays, he can keep buying things on it. Now this one's kind of interesting. He has a balance of $80. His credit limit's only $500, and the highest he's had on there ever is $124. So he doesn't spend a lot of money here. Now let's check this out. Let's see his payment history. Good, good, late, 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 late. So he's had a handful of lates, even this year, a late fee in 2016. So it looks like for this account, he maybe doesn't always pay it back on time. So this one has some late payments. Do I want to loan him the money? Well, let's look what we have. He paid this off. He has some late payments. He owes some other money. I'm not so sure. I mean, he's not perfect, not terrible yet. Another thing we want to check is, have you had a credit report before? Because basically, if you get a credit report when you want to get a loan. So if I'm going and getting more credit reports done, I'm trying to get more and more loans, which shows maybe I might be getting too many loans. It might be too much for me. So here's an inquiry. It looks like when he got that Mr. Money back up here, he had to get a credit report run. And that's about it. So he hasn't had any other requests done. Oh, nope, sorry. Looks like his company also, Williams Repair Service, back up here, his job had a credit report run, which some jobs may do that for you. So he's had 2 credit reports in the last looks like 2008 and 2016. So in the last 8 years, only 2 credit reports, which isn't too bad. So could I trust him? Maybe. Again, that's why his score is about a 648. It's getting up to the 700s, which is pretty good. It's not super low because he has paid back his money. The other thing that shows us, it looks like there was a civil case against him, or a civil disagreement against him. So it shows us here that he has, on his public records, he actually had a case go against him where he had to pay $2,100 in small claims court. Now, this was in 2011, but it looks like whatever it was, a civil case or a criminal case, whatever it was, that this small claim went against him. He had to pay $2,100. So, of course, if you're a criminal of some kind, we want to know that too. We want to know if we can trust you. That's one good way to know. Do you owe people money legally? Okay. And that's about the details that we have right here. The rest is all information about the credit company. This is who's running this. This looks like if you have problems, you can contact the credit reporting service and say, hey, somebody's using my information incorrectly. And then, of course, it tells us our rights that we have as a consumer. So we want to make sure that we follow that. But the most important stuff is all right in here. How do we read that credit report?